Super Rugby, round number 13, folks. 3 regular season rounds to go. Still teams vying for those final 8 spots and teams trying to get as high as they can on the log. We'll go through the teams which have been announced for round 13, a few stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this round is going to go. Opening game sees the Hurricanes taking on Moana Pacifica. Moana Pacifica got a bit of a hiding last week from the Chiefs. The Hurricanes also lost a nail-biter against the Blues, so certainly both sides looking to bounce back, although kind of taking different approaches to this one. The Hurricanes have rotated their squad after that Blues loss. No TJ Perenara, no Cameron, no Morby, no Barrett, no Ruben Love. So a bunch of guys who are kind of out of the squad this week, and several of the guys who were on the bench last week getting started. It's a whole new front row with Rakete Stones, Tupu and Lawaki, all of whom were on the bench last week. Pete Umaga Jensen gets his second start of the season. It's been a disrupted season for him. Aiden Morgan gets the nod at 10. Sinkinson on the right wing. Harry Godfrey back in at fullback. So, yeah, a lot of changes for the Hurricanes. Whereas Moana Pacifica, a lot of the names they've brought back in are kind of the more familiar ones. The likes of Julian Savia to face his old club from the number 12 jersey. Havili Taritui is back captaining the side from number 8. William Havili is back pulling the strings at number 10. Taumatene is back at 9. Taiafu is back into the midfield. So, yeah, if anything, it's a stronger Moana Pacifica lineup and maybe a slightly more experimental Hurricanes lineup. But that being said, with the Hurricanes being as good as they have been this season, even with rotated squads, one would still assume them to be pretty heavy favourites at home. Second game is the Rebels hosting the Chiefs. The Rebels have kind of been slowly falling down the Super Rugby log after a pretty strong start to the season, and the Chiefs, they have brought the big guns in for this one after resting a few last week. For the Rebels, Tualima is shifting into the second row this week. Wilkin is back. Brad Wilkin back in the number 7 jersey. Good guy to have back after a while on the sidelines. He is an absolute tackling machine. And Nick Kouassi is in there at number 8. Same 19 combo with Lawrence and Gordon, who've been a bit of a mainstay for the Rebels this season. And then on the bench, Pone Fa'omastili is back in Melbourne, having played for the Waratahs last week on a loan. He's back in Rebels colours, potentially getting his first Rebels game of the season. Also, Captain Rob Leota, who was a late scratching last week. He is in on the bench. For the Chiefs, I mentioned some big guns are back for them. Who is back? Damian McKenzie, top point scorer of Super Rugby this year. He is in there at number 10. Ratima, 8 try. Cortez Ratima in there at number 9. 8 try. Mone Narawa in on the right wing. So 2 of the Chiefs' top try scorers are back in their starting lineup this week. Also, George Dye and Aiden Ross, 2 new props in on both sides of the scrum. Luke Jacobson switches to number 8 for this one, with Kalen Boshia shifting up from the bench to start at number 7. And then Josh Ioane and Natoa Akoi back into 23 on the bench for the Chiefs. Now, if you've been hankering for some international rugby, there has been some games on. The Black Ferns have been playing. They played the USA the other day. Also, the under-20s have been in action for the Rugby Championship. The Boks and the Pumas and the All Blacks. The Wallabies kind of junior side, under-20 sides have all been in action. If you want to see some highlights of those competitions, check the link down in the description to NZR+. They've got a bunch of other rugby content there as well. Getting your Super Rugby fixed this weekend, and then some of the international stuff as well. For the Saturday games, the Drua are taking on the Reds as the early kickoff from Suva. Now, the Drua have been pretty bad away from home. They've lost their last 2 games, including a pretty hefty loss to the Force. But at home, they tend to be good. They won their last home game against Moana Pacifica. They are back home for this one. And with them in that 8th spot, they absolutely need to get some points. The other teams kind of close that gap on them. Koroi Duadua is back in at loose head after having served a suspension, so that's a bit of good news for the Drua. They've also shifted Thanakai Vata into the 23 at number 8, so there is no Diralangi this week, and Tiriketa Veta is back on the bench. He has been an absolute tackling machine for the Drua as well when he has been coming off. Also, that man with 62 defenders beaten is Masi in the midfield, continuing on. Certainly one of the guys to watch. He's been an absolute handful. The next guy, Mark Talia, has got like 10 fewer defenders beaten, so he has just been busting tackles for fun. For the Reds, man, they'll have some bad memories of the last time they were over in Fiji. They got absolutely hammered last year, but it's a new season, it's a new coach, and it's a new side, rotated front row from the team that beat the the Rebels last week, and they've also had to make a change at number 8 with Harry Wilson having a broken arm. So Ravai, Nasa, and Nongor get the nod this week. All the bench guys last week promoted to starting lineup this week. Also, a few of the youngsters with Taj Anan in there at number 13 and Floyd Aubrey in there at number 11. Couple of guys in their kind of early 20s. Potentially maybe handling the Fijian weather a bit better than some of the old boys. We'll kind of have to wait and see. John Bryant is the guy given the duties to cover Harry Wilson's big shoes at number 8. And also Tate McDermott is back starting this week, having served his time on the bench last week, back to a kind of more familiar starting role for him. Also a few changes on the bench with Seru Uru and Joe Bryle coming into the 23. And Tim Ryan, try-scoring machine, dropped to the bench for this one. Second of the Saturday game sees the Blues taking on the Highlanders, so another all-New Zealand affair. With the Blues rotating their squad also, kind of like the Hurricanes after that big kind of top-of-the-table clash. The Blues have rotated, whereas the Highlanders are fielding the exact same 23 that beat the Crusaders last week. The Blues, Talea, Tuipulotu, Sotutu, all these guys on kind of managed workloads, so they are out of the 23 for this one. A few of the kind of familiar faces, though, in different jersey numbers. Akira Ioane is going to play number 8 this week. Bryce Heem's going to play 13 instead of 12. AJ Lamb shifting out to the wing for this one. Cole Forbes is going to take the place of the injured Sullivan. There at fullback, also Marcel Renata is going to get his 50th appearance for the Blues at tight head, so big congratulations to him. Also Sam Nock promoted from the bench to a starting role this week. Also a couple of potential debutants in Tupaya and Banks for the Blues in the forwards and the backs. And good news with Stephen Perofeta also being back, having had a bit of an injury, but he is eased back into the lineup on the bench for this one. The Highlanders, like I mentioned, their lineup is unchanged. They are still without the likes of Harmon and Patchell and Retton, but some of the guys who've been filling in have been doing a bloody good job. The likes of Cameron Miller last week absolutely pulled the strings for the Highlanders exceptionally well. Very mature performance from him. Sean Withy tackled the house down with 23 tackles, kind of filling in that usual Billy Harmon role. And Tavatava Nawai with 6 defenders beaten was a real handful. So yeah, going for a bit of consistency against a slightly less familiar Blues lineup there at Eden Park. Brumbies taking on the Crusaders is an important one. Brumbies near the top of the table, Crusaders near the bottom, but certainly not out of it. But the Crusaders, in terms of their run into the finals, 2 of the top 3 teams, and the Brumbies this week, Blues next week, and then Moana Pacifica back at home. So yeah, you feel like the Crusaders are going to need to take a scalp. Will it be the Brumbies this week? Well, the Brumbies have also brought back some big guns. They'll be looking to not be the team that surrenders some points to the Crusaders. James Slipper, after being on the bench last week, is back starting. Noah Lolosio at 10. He was one of the guys who was rested last week. He is back starting in the number 10 jersey. Also, Nick Frost, who, if I'm not mistaken, has only played number 6 once in his career in terms of a starting role, is doing it for a second time this year. He did it back when there was the Super Rugby AU final way back in the day. He's doing that. He's usually a lock. He's playing number 6 this week. Hayden Neville takes the spot of the kind of regular locking jersey. Jerome Brown also into the 23 at open side flanker. For the Crusaders, they have got a few guys in, but still missing a few guys. HURvMOA is out. Scotty Barrett still not in the squad, but Fergus Burke back in at number 10 is certainly a bit of good news for Crusaders fans who've seen their squad missing many of these kind of big name players this year. Joe Moody is also back in at loose head alongside All Black Cody Taylor. Jone Rova is going to start at number 13 this week to take over the spot of Aumua. And Sevu Reece is the top try scorer in Super Rugby. Despite playing for the team, which is second from the bottom, he continues on the left wing, and he has been very impressive all season. Final game sees the Force taking on the Waratahs. Force potentially had their best game in about a decade in terms of Super Rugby performances. They absolutely hammered the Drua. Hupert getting a start at loose head is one of few changes. Also, finds Lelawasa is back in as the kind of reserve halfback. For the Waratahs, former Super Rugby man, a former Jaguares man in Argentinian Enrique Pireto. He's on loan from Glasgow to fill in at tight head this week. So he's a new acquisition to fill in, as there's no Thompson Stringer, there's no Johnson Holmes. Both those guys with season-ending injury, sadly. But Jake Gordon, 100th cap for New South Wales coming this weekend, so big congratulations to him as well. That's a heck of a shift. You guys let us know your thoughts on how things are going to go. We are almost at the end of the regular season. Still teams alive fighting for that top 8. You guys let us know your thoughts, and talk to you guys again soon. See you later.